Hey, mama. I see my mama. Hey, mama.
Hey. You're not Darius Rucker. Oh, so he just gets the handshake. He doesn't get a hug, Joel? Good. How are you? Nice to meet you.
All right, what's the official count? Just make sure my phone ain't so. 38 seconds.
I hear all the crackling.
I can't mind his business.
We make it smart.
It was available.
Oh man.
What's going on, everybody tuning in on Facebook Live, out there in Periscope, out there on YouTube. We appreciate y'all tuning in.
My mama watching. Y'all better talk right.
Talk harder.
She gonna talk about my bad grammar too. That's the funny thing. She be like that. She gonna say you misspelled that. I didn't even spell nothing, mama. I said it loud. I said it out loud.
thing. Then once you've acknowledged it, you need to talk to somebody because you need healthy coping mechanisms.
But I think that's the thing I've heard. It's kind of looked frowned upon in our communities, in any community, to actually talk to somebody about when you're going
It
through.
depends on the subject matter. In our community, mental illness is frowned upon.
Yeah.
It's a taboo subject matter. Suicide is frowned upon. It's a taboo subject matter. Rape is frowned upon. It's a taboo subject matter. So it just depends on what the tragedy is. I deal with that subject matter that is taboo, that no one likes to speak about.
So how do we get people to transition, being that it's taboo, how do we get people to kind of talk about it? Because as we see in current events, all these issues are happening. And so if you don't talk about it and it's suppressed, there's a big chance that it'll happen again.
So you ever heard of that term, testify? Or testimony?
Yeah.
Okay. So people think that's just basically like a religious term and, oh, I got to testify. No, it's really speaking to your experiences. I work in the medical community. Every time I have a patient and my patient is in front of me, I share my experience. And it may not be, it's not even a rehearsed thing. You could just feel the tone in the room. And, I talk about my different experiences. And then that opens up the door for them to be like, oh, you know what? Everybody who goes through something in that moment, they feel like they're the absolute only one that has experienced it, and then they find out, no, there's somebody else out there like me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
And
think.
I
Go
was
ahead.
going to say, one thing I wanted to jump in on is y'all mentioned, you mentioned suicide, and that's actually a story that's been circulating social media about the teens that committed suicide. There were a couple and they committed suicide. And one thing that happened, even here in this in Colombia, there was a young teen that committed suicide, and the church that he attended, they found out about it. And so when they found out about it, they began to want to address the situation and have a talk with the other teens that were at the program. But they said when they had that program, one of the teens raised their hand and said, why do y'all wait until something happens to want to talk to us then? And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that we can make is we wait until tragedy strikes to decide to do anything about tragic situations instead of trying to be, I guess, proactive to it. Like you said, suicide is something that's not as taboo for us to discuss. But then the moment it happens, now we're trying to figure out how we can adjust to it. If we would accept the fact that it's a reality and that people, teens, young adults, even mature adults suffer with, what they call suicidal ideation or thoughts of suicide, and actually use countermeasures to affect our culture so that this isn't as active as it should be, then we wouldn't have to be reactive, if that makes sense.
But I think
Point.
reacting to tragedy is actually the common mechanism. Because think about it. Nobody expects something like that of that magnitude to happen.
Right.
And we're not open enough with each other to talk about the fact that we're going through things when we're going through. But after it happens, all of a sudden now we want to be more open. You got to think about it. Jesus had to die before everybody could be saved.
Exactly.
So some tragedies are the spark. And I hate to say it like that. I don't want nobody to go through that kind of but it's the spark to actually trying to empower communities, trying to make better decisions, trying to even that's what's pushing the medical field right now.
It is. That was my spark.
Yeah.
I had multiple tragedies happen. A taboo subject matter. Hence, I did an anthology based on that subject matter. And my goal behind it was, I have 2 children that I raised. They're now young adults. But I didn't want them to feel like they were embarrassed. Not only were they grieving, they were embarrassed. So I'm like, no, we're going to create a positive legacy. Yeah, this happened, but as long as you have breath in your body, you can overcome and get through anything. It doesn't negate the fact that it happened. It doesn't even negate the fact that there's sorrow and grief caused by it. However, it doesn't define your existence.
But I think, and Pam, you can even speak to this because we didn't have such a push on leukemia and other cancer research until cancer became the new big thing sickness that was happening across America.
Right.
Why do you think it took so long for them to actually start looking at what's going on in the cancer field and with leukemia?
I'm not sure what took them so long. I think they've been trying to, all this time find cures, but there's many different kinds of leukemia and lymphoma. And that was one of the things I realized when I was going through the experience I did with my brother, is just the discrepancy between the availability of, I don't say like resources, but what's out there. So my brother needed a bone marrow transplant, and if you're a minority or mixed race like we are, it's almost impossible to have a death sentence if you get AML. I mean, I think in the last 30 years there hasn't been any advances in that area, and I'm not sure what that's. I think it's just education. People aren't really. People don't talk about it. When my brother was going through it, please pray for him, please do this, please do that. But I never really sat and
actually educated yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Why.
And I think that's something that we all can say that we make mistakes on. It's like especially when you're going through a traumatic situation, you're not always quick to say, well, let me educate myself on how to deal with what I'm going through. A lot of times, and even from the church aspect, sometimes we're taught to put on a fake mindset that everything is okay even when it's not, and that's not actually what the Bible teaches us. But we've been taught that, and so that's what we actually practice, and then oftentimes we find ourselves in a worse state than what we actually in. We'll be right back, continuing the topic. This Urban City Boot Up.
We can keep talking. We're gonna keep talking.
Keep talking.
Keep the conversation going. But I mean, even speaking to that, how it's a lack of education when it comes to in the medical field about heart disease, about leukemia and cancer. I was reading an article in one of the medical websites, and it was talking about how emotional stress of sickness can put such a strain on people's hearts. So people actually are having heart attacks because of their emotional.
You know what it's called? Do you know what it's called?
What's it called?
It's called broken heart syndrome.
Oh, there's
And
an
it's
actual name?
true. It's an actual name. It's a medical term. It's broken heart syndrome. And it's the stress of whatever the occurrence is so intense. And it stresses the arterial walls. It creates high blood pressure.
Wow.
Yeah,
All
all
these
that-
components
The
come
cortisol
together.
going and all that.
Yeah.
So just
Broken heart
chemically
syndrome
in the
is what
body.
it's called.
Yeah, I have one of the older members in our church was going through a divorce at the time, and he went to the doctor and they said, "Sir, you had a stroke."
Wow.
what?
And he said, "No, I didn't." They said, "Yes, you had a stroke." He said, "Nah, my heart was just broken." And like it was seriously to the point where they were like certain walls of his heart had started ripping down and stopped. And they were like, if you hadn't came in here about a week, if you had came here a week later, you probably would have died. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And
But you hear that in older couples a lot, remember?
Yeah.
You would have somebody who's been married, 50 plus years or 40 plus years, right? And then the spouse passes. They're like,
spouse-
they don't know what to do. So they die of grief.
Like 3 months later,
The
if that.
hearts are broken hearts.
Wow.
And just think about the families who find out that their parents or somebody in their family is dealing with a type of illness, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Nothing.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing for me. I hated that feeling of there's
Being
nothing I can
helpless.
do. I was like, I
Yeah.
can fly to St. Louis and keep them entertained and, go back to my hotel room and cry at night. There's just nothing I could do.
And I think that is where we really get stuck in the midst of tragic moments, is when we start feeling like there is nothing I can do, and you get trapped in that emotion, you get trapped in that feeling, because you're like, okay, I'm here, everything is going chaotic, and I feel like I have no hope.
Exactly.
And that is where a lot of us tend to suffer the most, because it's like, what do I do when I'm in the midst of that trial, that situation, that issue, and I don't feel like I have hope? How do I get past what I'm feeling emotionally? Because just like you said, my emotional feelings can cause even more stress to what I'm already going through. And so if I don't feel like there's a hope, then I'm sitting around being depressed, stressed, worrying, and it's making everything worse than what I'm actually. And it's crazy how when you really sit down and look at it, it's so much that ties into being able to get through stuff that we go through in life safely.
Yeah,
The biggest enemy is isolation.
Yes.
Do not become a recluse. If you are left to your own thoughts,
Oh yeah, it'll eat you up.
it is your enemy. It will take you. So you have to surround yourself. You know that iron sharpens iron. When you're at your weakest point, you have to be around somebody.
Yeah.
Don't isolate. Depression. It stems from depression.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't even realize.
Yeah.
As we go back in this next subject, I actually want to talk with you, Pam, about how you, when your brother was going through, the kind of reactions your family was going through. Because I just had a friend on Friday. His mother just passed away from cancer,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and they were having a viewing today. Now my homeboys, they ain't saved yet. They ain't Christians yet, so they doing what non-saved people do to try to get through. And that means, I ain't gonna put them out there like that, but that means everything people do to try to get through, when they don't feel like they have hope right now.
Right. I mean, you can't get through something like that without hope. Because, we were talking about there's nothing you can do yourself.
Yeah.
It's only those times you got to give it over to God. You can't do anything about it. The interesting thing about all of this, my brother was actually atheist before this all happened.
Wow.
He's a very intellectual guy, Horatio Alger scholar, one of the highest SATs in Illinois when he graduated high school. We come from a little farm town. Like, our graduating class is like 100, and there's five towns. That's how small it was. Super smart guy, and I think he was just too much in his head.
Yeah.
That I can do this. I'm capable of, I can do anything, kind of a thing. But going through this, and so there's 5 people that went through an experimental bone marrow transplant at the same time he did. None of them made it except for him, and he had the worst odds.
Oh, wow.
So I tell him he needs a T-shirt that says "I'm a walking miracle" because he is.
Yeah.
And through that, that's when he's very Christian now. I mean, you can't go through something like that. You can't go through something like that. And,
You can't.
And not believe it.
Yeah, I mean, there's just things in life you can't do.
But
And then the people
Take it to
that are affected with it, because you can't just think about the person. That person has a family.
Yeah.
You know, and so my father, matter of fact, today he just got a clean bill of health from his cancer that he was diagnosed with.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And my mother is a breast cancer survivor. So
Word.
when you go through stuff like that, it's not just the person, it's the entire family.
Yeah.
And with us, we have a family ran business. So when the CEO is out,
Yeah.
that falls on me. And then you've got other people who call and check, but who checks on you?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
true.
I mean, they mean well.
Yeah.
I mean, please pray for the person, but who's praying for me?
Yeah.
Right.
And so,
And I would say the other side of somebody going through such a hard tragedy, those ones that go through it with hope.
Right.
We just had a member from our church pass away last year named Becca. Love Becca. Becca had been dealing with cancer for about 2 years that he knew of, and young married couple, and her and her husband were a matter of fact, I talk to Matt all the time, and he's like, "This is the closest I've ever been to God, and it took for me to have to go through this for me to be close to God." And the whole time she was in the hospital, she was still talking about grace and talking about how great God love is, and talking about how even if this happens, she is going to be fully healed however she comes out.
Wow.
And when she passed away, the response her husband gave, I ain't gonna lie, I'm a Christian. I don't know if I'm that. If I'm,
That Christian.
I don't
You're
want to be
that
tested like that, But he said, the day she passed away, I remember what he posted. He said, Becca has been admitted from the hospital with a full body transplant.
wow.
And I was like, our pastor came in that morning and just bust down crying and said, Becca passed away this morning. And to see his response and to see his pursuit of God, even in the midst of all this.
Yeah. And I think the key thing is to note that it's those moments that push us to where we know we need to be. I can even speak from personal experience when we talk about matters with the heart. I had a lot of deaths recently, and a lot of them were heart related. 3 brothers, a grandma. So it's basically their mom and 3 brothers all passed. Then around that same time, this is on my wife's side, and then at the same time, my father is now in the hospital right after that with heart issues.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there, and it's like I was dealing with it one after one. My wife's dealing with it. I'm seeing my father-in-law deal with it, and it's like emotionally, I'm trying to be strong for my extended family, and I call them my family. I don't do those in-law thing, but so I'm dealing with them, and it's an emotional thing, and we loving, and it's like we get through all that, and I'm praying, and then as soon as we get through all that, not even a day later, I get the call, and my wife's like, "You need to sit down." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Your dad, he's in the hospital, and they can't even figure out what's going on." And it's like I broke down. I was like, God, strong Christian faith builder. God, what you doing?
Yeah.
I can't make sense of this experience and all. I pray, I believe, I got faith, but right now I'm going through. And the response that my wife had and my father-in-law had was, they cared about what was going on with my father, but they needed to make sure what was going on with me. And a lot of times, like they said, we get so caught up in the person that's actually going through the sickness that we don't actually realize sometimes that sickness of that individual puts a lot of strain on the person that's caring for them.
Yeah.
You think about
Absolutely.
my grandmother, before she passed, one of the things she struggled with was Alzheimer's. And if anybody's ever had a family member with Alzheimer's, it is not an easy process. And so you spend your life dedicated to that person. And a lot of times people look at, okay, you're doing something nice and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm in my mind, it's a lot.
Life.
Yeah,
this is life right
it's
now.
It's a lot. And it's so important that we have those people that we can talk to. We have those moments where we get ourselves together and we find ways to encourage ourselves in the midst of crisis, because if you don't, you're gonna break down. No matter how strong you are, no matter how big your faith is, no matter how much you go to church, you are still human and you're still plausible to weak emotions that cause you to be stressed out. And if you don't take care of yourself, it's gonna show.
And I think those breakdown sessions are actually needed.
Absolutely.
Because you've got to get that out. I think the key thing is not to stay down.
Yeah.
So once you break down, it's like, all right, let's take a moment. Let's regroup. Let's get back at this thing. So.
See, the misconception is when people say, oh, God will never put more on you than you can bear. That's a lie. The Bible doesn't teach that. Paul actually said, I've been crushed and broken. And the reason he was crushed and broken is so God can show his strength in him. Not so he can show how strong he is in him, but so God can show his strength through Paul and say, my grace is sufficient. So the misconception is, I'm strong enough to handle this. God obviously thinks I'm strong enough to handle this. And that's not it. He's like, I need you to surrender and come to me and trust in me. If you were strong enough to handle this, you wouldn't need me.
Right.
Yeah. One of the hardest things I ever experienced before we started even dealing with the depths was after the flood. And I probably tell this testimony all the time, but I share it so people can know. Like, after the flood, we lost everything, and then we went through the home buying process, and that was strenuous for me because I never been through that before. And it was like I was walking through that process trying to figure it out, and I remember like when it came down to closing, and if you ever bought a home, you know how hard closing is. And it came down to closing, and I'm sitting here, and they upping the prices that I can't afford, and I'm sitting here like, okay, me and my wife, my sons, my newborn daughter is sleeping on the floor, and you're telling me I can't afford to put them in this house. And I remember rocking in the car, and my wife, she's in the house, she didn't know what was going on. I'm in the car rocking back and forth saying, I'm not going crazy, I'm not going crazy, I'm not going crazy, like literally having to speak that over myself because I felt my mind literally about to snap because I've been in that place for so long, and I'm like, I'm praying, I'm having faith, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm doing everything they tell me to do, and I'm still going through a crisis. And see, you have to be real with yourself. In the midst of those hard times, you're going to feel like you can't handle it. But one of the encouraging things, one of the best things is not to stick by yourself. Immediately when I started feeling like that, one of the first things I did after praying was go get my wife. And I told her what was going on. And she walked me through and calmed me down, talked me out of it. And if it had not been for her, I would have ended up in the mental hospital that night. But because I went and got my wife and she stuck with me and calmed me down and got me through that process, it's like I'm able to say I'm still in my right mind right now when I know for a fact that I was about to lose it that night. So one of the biggest mistakes we make is when we go through, we want to tend to isolate ourselves because we feel like nobody understands, nobody cares, nobody feels what I feel, or they don't understand how I feel. Don't do that to yourself. Make sure you surround yourself with people who you know you can trust when you're in your weakest state, who you can really put your heart towards, and they can pour back into you because you're going to need that.
Yeah.
Ecclesiastes 7, talks
go ahead.
about, it says, it's good to go into a place of sorrow because sorrow is good for the heart. God says sorrow is good for the heart because that is when you're at the point of surrender, when you have no other recourse.
Absolutely.
You're no longer in control. But that helped get me through a lot of stuff. You know why? Because it granted me permission to grieve. Because when you're trying to be strong for everybody else, you don't have permission to grieve. You always got to keep your face on. You got to be strong. You got to go. When I went to the hospital, I got to cater to my patients. I have to compose myself. If a tear felt like it was going to drop, throw your head back, and you better hold that tear. You have to compose. I literally had to grant myself permission to grieve, but I had to understand the importance of grief.
Yeah.
And sorrow is good for the heart because that's when you surrender. It's okay to surrender. It's who are you surrendering it to?
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
And believing that who you're surrendering it to has the ability to handle it.
Yeah, that's
take
right.
care of it.
Yeah, I think the thing is, we were never created to be isolated. We were never created to be alone. You got to think about it. God is never alone.
Right.
He's three parts of God, so he's never alone. So if God is never alone, he's in community, and he created us in his image. He created us to be in a community. He's created us to be with other people, to bear one another's burdens.
That's right.
I saw something on your page, Sunshine, in Distinguished Diamonds, and you were talking about how y'all have small groups, and y'all actually have people that sit around and y'all discuss life. I mean, if you ain't discussing life with somebody, trust me, life is going to it's gonna find you. Yeah.
Just keep living. I've had a lot of one-on-one discussions actually, and I'm grateful that people find that it's a safe place to come here.
We'll be right back. Boot up.
Be right there. Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
That if they find it safe to come. Why? Because one, you should never be judgmental based on what somebody comes and confides in you about or talks to you about. My biggest go-to is my truth that I know to be the truth is that if nobody else on the planet, including yourself, can handle whatever it is you're going through, God got you.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and you're not the only one, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's important to show people love.
Yeah.
The world has gotten away from genuinely loving somebody. So, like you find in that program thinking that people actually rejoice in other people's misery. When that you have that saying, misery loves company. No.
Yeah.
You're supposed to pray with them. You're supposed to pray for them. You're supposed to encourage them. You're supposed to show love. So that's the whole point behind that. That was like, it was a vehicle and is a vehicle to show love. It's like that centerpiece that it's a conversation piece, you know, and it's okay. It's okay. Even if you're experiencing something, God doesn't show favoritism. He doesn't judge you based on your circumstances. Psalm 103 says that God does not harbor his anger towards us forever. He does not treat us as our sins deserve. He is compassionate. He's slow to anger, right? And as far as the east is from the west, that's how far he loves us, right?
Yeah.
So how can we not love each other in the midst of our lowest points? You know, it's like, that's to your credit.
One thing I was having in trouble was loving myself during all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
And maybe it's just me, but I mean, I was like, does God even see me right now?
Yeah.
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 And I go
Absolutely.
through this, Jeremiah 29:11 is the verse I love.
Yeah.
And then I'm, going through this. I'm like, this can't be his plan for me. I mean, he can't. I've had all these kids to raise, work, and just there's some other pretty traumatic things going through at the same time. And I was just like, did God even see me? Like, I just remember breaking down and sitting there thinking, I was like, in my head, I know he does. I know what the Bible says, and I believe it's true. But I had my doubts, so I don't know if anyone went through that.
Yeah.
When you went through those things, or if it's just me being.
And that's why you need iron. That's
And
why
then it made me
iron
feel
has
worse.
to sharpen iron.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's why you have to surround yourself with
Right.
those who are like, you know what? I understand. And yes, it's okay.
Right.
But yes, he does love you.
Thank goodness there was a woman that I'd come across
Right.
who kind of explained that to me. But it's so much easier to give than to take.
Right.
Like, it's
Yeah.
just, and everyone's like, not
Yeah.
to sound like altruistic, but it is.
Yeah. Right.
Like I don't want people to ask people for help. Like
Yeah.
I'd rather be the one
That's
helping
pride.
somebody.
That's
That is
pride.
That's what I was
we all
saying.
have it.
Yeah.
We all have
Oh,
it.
well, that's
Right.
what I was saying. It's a
Fight
pride
against
thing.
it.
So when you're going through the grief things, I would always, it's fine, everything's good. Just please pray for my brother. And just,
And I want to point something out. Just like you're saying, it's always easier to give than receive. In the church arena, a lot of pastors deal with stuff like that.
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
because they're always looked to as the person that people come to for help. So they always ask themselves the question, who can I go to when I'm broken? Because if I let the wrong person see me broken, how are they going to receive me later?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So it's really hard out there as an individual knowing who. I remember. I'm not a pastor, but I remember it was a guy I was talking to, a friend of mine, and it was actually somebody who I actually helped lead to Christ. But I was going through at the time, and I showed him that part, and he literally just told me, he's like, bro, I can't handle you seeing you like this. He literally said that to me. He was like, I appreciate you. He was like, but I look to you for strength, and it's like seeing you like this, it's hurting him. And I had to realize, like, even though we're friends, it's just certain parts. You think about Jesus, his relationship with the disciples. All the disciples didn't see him broken. You see what I'm saying? He had 3 that he took to a secret place, and even that with them, and we're back. And he even yo, look, you got to be on the Facebook Live. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
But it's interesting to your point in something I want to ask, because you see with all these national tragedies happening, ordinary people being thrusted into a spotlight
Yeah.
Yeah.
to speak on behalf of the tragedy, but they themselves,
They have no clue.
they like, how do you grieve in public?
It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult, especially when people are not ready to embrace your grief.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And that's only because
Right.
it's a carnal mindset. Grief is healthy. It's okay.
Absolutely.
Tears are not a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
You have to be strong to be able to cry in public.
Jesus wept.
He did.
Yeah.
Jesus had to grieve at the tomb of Lazarus, not because he didn't believe Lazarus wouldn't get up, but he was still human. He still loved Lazarus, and now he see Martha standing before him saying, if you was here, this is people I love, and they're
Right.
hurting.
Yeah, and it's compassion. That's why
Exactly.
he cried.
Right.
He knew what they were feeling, even though he knew it was going to be fine.
Exactly. And I think one thing is we take scriptures like I could do all things through Christ who strengthened me and we take that out of context, because when Paul said that, Paul was getting beat. Like life was beaten down. This the dude that was shipwrecked, bit by a snake, blind in one eye, half crippled, and everybody said, Paul, you all right?
Was going through.
Look, I'm going through, but I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. This isn't no quote unquote he's encouraged. Like Paul was going through, and he had to still carry that weight while having hope. Like he's still carrying the weight while having hope.
And that's the key factor.
is.
That's the key factor, because that's what I'm seeing today is a lot of people who are going through the issues that we go through, but they don't have the hope that we have.
Absolutely.
And that's where I fault. I'm like, look, we got to make sure that we share the hope with people, because that's what keeps people secure, grounded, rooted. You know, there's a practicality to the scripture, but there's also a spirituality to the scripture. So we have to be one with the scripture, the word. We have to also be one with the God of the word. So we got to make sure we have a relationship with the one who encourages, who strengthens, but have a relationship with people who encourage and who strengthens. It has to be a balance, because without that balance, you'll find yourself in some situations and some circumstances that you may not know exactly how to get out of.
Absolutely.
And this is beautiful too, because right here, right now, we have a vehicle where we are setting the tone for acceptance
Yeah,
of grief.
absolutely.
And acceptance of, you know what, even though you're broken, you're at your strongest point when you're broken, because you can be molded into what you're supposed to be, right? And then, yes, we got a hope that we can share with you. Why? Because we've been there.
Right.
We felt that heat.
Yeah.
We've been there. We've been depressed. We've felt the insecurities, the embarrassment, the self-doubt, the lack of self-love, faithlessness, that you have to pray yourself out
Absolutely.
of in your moment. And like you said, don't linger in it. But at the same time, be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Be transparent about
Be
it.
Right.
honest. Like, you know what, this hurts.
Yeah.
And I can remember a very crucial conversation when my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and our pastor came over with the family and prayed. Something important he said, it's not so much about her cancer as it is about you guys' faith.
Yeah.
And so if the faith aspect is not there, you talk about hope in order to pray your way out and pray through, and in the same token, be honest, because you'll notice when tragedies happen amongst families, it gets worse before it gets better.
Absolutely.
And so everybody's insecurities and everybody's what they've been holding in, like you said earlier, it triggers.
It does.
So somebody might go off on a brother or on a sister, and it can be completely innocent, but because you've been holding on to something for so long, and then you have that come to Jesus meeting.
And don't you dare talk about it outside this house.
Right.
What
Yeah.
happens in this house
Stays
in
in-
the
right.
house. Oh.
Yeah.
But y'all be embarrassing the family name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, the Bible says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, but it also says, and the words of our testimony. So it's key factor that we have to know that part of our walk with Christ is to be able to share those moments, that not just what we went through, but how we overcame, because there's somebody that don't believe that they can overcome it. And then when we share that with them, we're giving them that hope to say, okay, I have a point of reference. It's not just he say, she say,
Right.
but you actually showing me that you experienced this and you were able to get out. It's the same way when you think about, overcoming low income society, overcoming whatever it was that you overcame, when you're doing motivational speaking, however you do it, when you share those moments with people, you're helping to give them that hope of, okay, I can overcome as well. So yeah, that's definitely something that we definitely have to keep in mind as we're going through.
And not just to mention something Danny Diesel on Facebook said earlier. He said, even Jesus needed help carrying the cross. So it was a point when even his strength gave out in the flesh.
In the flesh,
Gave out
absolutely.
for a second, where he had to have somebody else come along and their name had to be mentioned that they helped him carry that cross.
Right.
So if Jesus can, in the physical form, be broken to the point where he
needed help.
he needs help. Like, if he can get that far, and that's the perfect man / God on earth, then who are we?
Right.
Who are we? Like, I think, like I said, it's so many misconceptions that people have about Christians. We find our value in how strong we are. But just because $100 bill get balled up and thrown in the trash don't make it any less of $100 bill.
You're right.
Like, our value should be in God's strength and how he's getting us through. You see me in the struggle. You see me in the storm. You see everything falling apart. This is at the end of the day for his glory. Now, that's not easy for somebody who don't believe in God to hear.
Yeah.
Well, it's senseless.
It's
You don't
senseless.
believe-
Right.
Yeah.
But guess what? James 1 says that you should be able to take pride in your
Hurt.
humble
Yes.
circumstances. Consider it pure joy. We don't consider that joyful. No.
Because we don't want everybody knowing our business and being
Nobody
transparent.
wants to be abnormal.
Yeah.
You know, one of
But
those
when you're in
things,
your
so-
humble circumstances, you're broke.
Yeah.
You don't have nothing left. You sleeping on the floor. Your kids have whatever else going on. Your family's in disarray. You know, your car broke. Whatever that God has allowed to happen. It didn't say he caused it. He may have allowed it to test your faith.
That's it. That's it.
However, consider it pure. When you're in your humble circumstances, take pride. That's what you should be joyful about.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's when you know, oh, he favors me. Because
Yeah.
this didn't take me out.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it don't feel good though. I'm not,
At all.
I don't feel joyful.
Don't get it
Yeah.
twisted.
I agree with you, but I didn't feel like that until about a year
Be
later.
joyful in your spanking.
Yeah.
It's
But
making
it goes back to the testimony part. I think some people are too prideful or too shy to give their testimony, not knowing that it's actually helping somebody.
Yeah.
Because I think we have to start thinking of it as somebody can be delivered off of just your pure experience.
Yeah.
Well,
And us holding it to ourselves is selfish to the work that God did with us.
But I will ask this question because this is probably one of the biggest questions non-believers have towards Christians. If God is so good, why does such bad things happen? And I think that's a question we need to become a little better prepared at answering, because now they're asking us to put God on trial.
Well, how about this? You take on the universe. You got this one talking about war over here. You got tsunamis happening over here. You got earthquakes right here. You got this person who's about to get put out of their home because they can't pay their rent. You got this person dealing with mental illness. You got this person dealing with cancer. You got all this stuff going on. And he keeps the entire universe in balance.
Yeah.
So does he allow certain things to happen because he cares enough about you to shake you up, but not take you out per se, but just like, hey, pay attention. It's like your kids.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you get over here, don't you go in that street. This car is coming. You can't see that car coming, but guess what? He can see that car coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can see that, you know, there's a cliff beyond this thing right here that you can't see, but your disobedience keeps drawing you to the edge of the cliff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that God is here to prevent all bad things from happening. No, he shields us. He protects us. And if we remain in obedience, we can actually see his glory through it.
And I'm glad you shared that because it's something that I wanted to share before we go to break. You think about there's a familiar passage from the Bible, talk about the 3 Hebrew boys, and we talk about how God delivered them out of the fiery furnace, but we never focus on the fact that they actually were in there.
They had to go in that mud.
It was hot.
It's hot.
It's the delivery was the fact that they were in the situation, but they were not affected by it.
Right.
They didn't even smell like smoke. So I think a lot of times we don't focus on the fact that our deliverance is how we go through the situation, not necessarily how he takes us out. And I think even in our experiences, we have to know that no matter what we are in or what we're going through, we look at how God has delivered us in that situation. You know, somebody else is dealing with it. They didn't make it. But like you said, your brother has a testimony that the other people who had better situations don't have.
Right.
And that's the hope that we as believers have. We go through certain things, but because of the God that we serve, our situation turns out different.
Right.
We'll be back, boot up.
But in my carnal mind, I remember feeling like, you know, somebody came to me and she was like, I had to tell you this. God told me to tell you that all that stuff that happened to you happened for you. And I was like,
I mean, are you different now, though? I mean,
I was like, I don't receive that at all. How you trying to make
I don't want none of that.
And I understand. I'm 2 years past this is a lot of different stuff. But the one that she was referring to, that actually happened in 2008. And it started off in 2008. And she told me that in like 2012. And I was like, woman?
Yeah.
What? You know, and I'm like, I don't feel like it. If it's not happening, if it's happening for me, I don't want none of that. Then guess what? Tragedy after tragedy after tragedy after tragedy happened. And it's like, you know what? I kept praying, God, don't let me learn through tragedy. Don't let me. I promise you.
I want to learn that way.
I promise you for years. Oh God, please help me learn my lesson without tragedy. You know, and guess what? Tragedy. And it's like, but as time went on, I understood why. Because he would put somebody in my face, and I don't want to feel like talking to nobody.
Yeah.
And they crying, and I can't look at you and you hurting, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna ignore you.
Yeah.
No, it's like, what's going on? Then guess what happens? I end up telling, well, guess what? This happened. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. It's like,
because you're
I
relating
understand
to
why.
them. You know, when you go through things like that, I went through a domestic violence situation, and there's somebody that I knew. There's like, you went through one, and they're like, I wouldn't have, because you don't, I guess,
Same
you
thing.
stereotype.
Yeah,
things. So it's just,
absolutely.
you can go through anything, and as long, I guess, in my thing is, if you go through something bad, you're not victorious unless you use it for something good, and you can't do that unless you're sharing with people what happened.
Absolutely.
God will put those people in your way.
He will.
I mean, they're right in front of you. I
I
mean,
promise
people,
you, I ain't want to talk to
I'm
nobody.
at
Single
Publix,
time.
in line at Publix, or somebody I was
And
talking
it'll
to.
keep coming
Every
until
time.
you confront it.
It will chase you down. It will chase you down. I'm serious. Even if I have a thought like, I don't feel like being bothered.
Boom, there they
Boom,
go.
there they go. But true, seriously.
With me though, because I went through kind of like a whole bunch of things at one time too, and I got tired of asking people to pray for me. I just thought it was like almost like I was I don't know how to describe it, where I felt like,
Like you were a tragedy magnet.
yeah, like I felt like, I don't know.
Like, again?
Yeah, I just want to stay inside. I was trying to open my door.
I
You
get
need
it.
more help?
I get it.
I know. It's like, can you pray for me about this and pray for me about that? Where it's just, but
you-
then going through that, though, I mean, that is humbling to be like, I don't know what's happening, but I need help.
And I think we always think about how people are looking at us at that time. We always the ones asking. Everybody's going to be on the asking side sooner or later. I don't care who you are.
And keep
You're going to be asking for something sooner or later.
Keep on living.
And hopefully you know to ask.
Exactly.
You better know to ask.
That's boy, I was homeless for a year because I didn't want to ask.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, that's not the side you want to be on.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm trying to tell you, I know. Hey, look, this next segment, we're gonna go ahead and get into y'all. So we're gonna let y'all kind of discuss why y'all here. We're gonna start off with Sunshine, and then
No, we're going to start off Pam, then Sunshine.
okay, excuse me.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start with Pam.
Retro.
Way up. All right. Oh, man. This has been a good show. I love
I
it.
know, this is awesome.
I'm enjoying myself right now. Like I did
I
a cup of
know.
coffee just.
I feel like we all should just like hang out and talk
No,
after
no coffee,
this.
Jay. Look, we're back, Urban City Radio, where we bring the sounds of boots on the ground. Boot up. Listen, like we said in all our episodes, if you're not following the Facebook Live, you're missing a lot of the show.
Yeah.
And we're not apologizing for it.
Sorry, not sorry.
All right. So in this part of the show, we're going to get to know our guest a little bit, and we've been talking about tragedy from heart disease, from diseases altogether, from cancer and leukemia, and we have somebody from the leukemia organization.
Yes, I was a nominee, so I was nominated for Woman of the Year for
wow.
the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. So it's a 10-week fundraising competition, and we're nearing towards the end of that.
Wow.
But the reason why I accepted the nomination, because I'm a behind-the-scenes person. I'm not the face person. I'd rather, I don't know, I'm just usually not. So this is completely out of my comfort zone. So talking about God putting you somewhere where you're not comfortable with, this is what's happening here. But the reason why I did is just in thankfulness. My brother, God performed a miracle. I mean, he should, statistically, I'm a numbers person. Statistically, he should not be here if you look at all the odds and just, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, just all the research they do. I had mentioned AML before. If you're a minority and you get AML, it's pretty much a death sentence. They're funding a AML master trial right now. That's a research project.
What's AML?
Yeah.
Acute,
Just for the-
acute myeloid leukemia.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of different types of leukemia and lymphoma. AML out of everybody right now, the 5-year survival rate is only 26%.
Wow.
That's everybody. And you look at the minority segment, is very, very low. And you looked at mixed race, like my brother and I are, it's super, super low.
It's harder to find
Yeah, 'cause
transplant.
It's harder to find matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's part of the reason why I did it. Was one, to spread awareness. I mean, being a bone marrow donor is just a cheek swab, and it's similar to giving platelets. That's all it is, to save someone's life. So there's been a big push in the minority communities to get people in that database. And also, I was mentioning that the fundraising that I'm doing is going to go to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and what they do is just a lot of research. So I just kind of nip it in the bud so people don't have to hopefully get to that point. And I guess my whole thing is, we're talking, live life forward. All this bad stuff happened. I got through it.
Yeah. So talk about the fundraising and talk about
Yes.
how people can actually, like you said, donate to you said like the cheek swab and they give platelets just to figure out if they're a match for those that might be suffering with AML. Give the people some of the information for that so they can make sure that they tune in that.
Sure. So this Friday at Empire on Lady Street from 7 to 11, we're having a fundraiser where 100% of the proceeds, or not even the proceeds, just 100% of whatever we bring in goes in there. Just doing it all in my pocket. It's going to be $100 for the first place and second place winner, or first place male, first place female winners. It's going to be a live band, a DJ. There's be a DJ there too, so if the live band doesn't know the song, which I think they do, quite a big variety of music there. So it'll just be a good time, and it's for a good cause. Like I said, anything we raise that night, 100% goes to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
Word. And you had a flyer for it, right? You have a flyer.
I do.
Okay, cool. We will be posting the flyer to our Facebook page, so you need to go like the Urban City Radio page and also Freethinkers Radio page. We will be posting to our page to stay tuned. Go out, support, go to Empire. They don't let the church in the club. Oh,
Just in case, going back to what you were saying about the swabbing, how can
Yes.
people? How can people get?
That's separate from Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So that one is actually, there's a lot of them. If you just Google it, there's one that's specific to African Americans. But the one that I would recommend going to is I think it's called BeTheMatch.com, and they'll send you a kit. You just swab your cheek and send it back in, and if you're a match, then they'll call you and see if you want to do it or not. And it's not. A lot of people think bone marrow transplant, sitting you down and cutting you open. It's similar to giving platelets.
Okay.
Similar to giving blood.
Okay. So that's a great information to have. Make sure you're at Empire this Friday from 7 to 11. Make sure you support the event. Like you said, all of the information will be posted on our webpage. Will be posted on our Facebook page. So make sure you tune in for that. And make sure you, like she said, go to Vista. What is it? What was it?
Oh, Be the Match?
Be the Match.
It smells like Vista. I was like
Vista Print.
You go to Vista if you're hungry. They got some good restaurants.
Make sure you go to BeTheMatch.com and get if people laughing at me on Facebook. BeTheMatch.com. Make sure you get the information out. Look, a lot of times people miss out on what they need just because we're not making ourselves available. And like she said, it's just something simple as giving platelets. So don't take it lightly. Make that call today. Make that search today. Get involved in your community. When we come back from our next break, we'll be talking to Miss Sunshine P. And we'll be getting all the details about Vista. But look, man, don't even bring me out like that on Facebook, bro. But yeah, we'll be back. Urban City, boot up.
Boot up.
Hey, Marie. Hey, Sunday.
Oh my goodness.
That's funny.
Oh my.
Was that Javon?
So he went back with this.
What's that?
This is this Patrice? Is this Patty? Yes, this is Patrice being played right now. What? Is that Unstoppable?
Yeah, that's unstoppable.
Is that Detox Music? Everybody, I'm gonna just we got to make a special announcement real quick. This is Detox Music playing. Detox, the CEO, the owner, Dave Pendergrass, was
Who's
a part of a
shaking his head
band
right
called Detox
A live
Music.
band.
A live band that rapped, sang, the mugs was doing the thing.
They did live recording.
Live recordings. And this right now is playing Unstoppable. Go Google that dog on EP.
It's still available.
It is still available. Detox Unplugged.
I had
That
I had the
Detox.
honor to feature on the EP. So yeah, I appreciate that.
I couldn't make it.
They called me up to do the live show, and I was like, I don't know how to rap over a live band. I was like, I'm not gonna come in right, but
Yo, Dave was the first. They had the first rap group / band that I seen sell out a show on their EP release.
Wow.
Ain't had no music out. They released, they started promoting the doggone EP 3 weeks before the concert and didn't record the EP till the week before the concert. Like, how you do that? And sold out.
That's what's up.
Like spot sold out.
Yeah.
People pushing to get in. People, they had to start turning people away at the door.
I almost didn't get in, and I was one of the performers. I had to call Dave like, man, they won't let me in the building.
You had the bouncers at the door, like at the church.
Nah, bro. Nah, bro.
Man, good times.
Oh
Good times.
man, that was great.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. And 5, 4, 3, 2, and we're back. Urban City Radio, boot up. Look, we at the last minutes of the show, but we definitely want to make sure we give time to highlight every guest. So now we're talking about with Sunshine P. Go ahead and let everybody know who you are.
Wagwan, it's Sunshine P. No, I'm like, no. Well, on a serious note, my name is Trisha Sunshine Pollard. My artist name is Sunshine P. It is. That's my government name.
I saw the message come up on my. I was like, who is Trissa?
But I'm so honored to be invited on here, and I have a nonprofit called Distinguished Diamonds. And my nonprofit was established to leave a positive legacy for my children because we have gone through tragic circumstances in our household. I am also a recording artist. I do neo soul, jazz, some reggae, a little bit of everything. And
She dope too.
and I'm also a cardiovascular sonographer.
Oh, wow.
So I deal with matters of the heart all the way around, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. It's very important to me to give a platform and give a voice to those who have gone through things that deal with taboo subject matter. So whether it's abuse, rape, death of a parent, loss of a child, mental illness, divorce, something that some people think is just so minute, but it's like a death.
Yeah.
It's like a physical death. It causes depression. I've dealt with suicide. I've dealt with all kinds of things. And I just want people to know, first of all, I have a book out. It's an anthology called Diamonds from the Rough.
Okay.
And it's me and 8 other co-authors who have entrusted me with their personal stories. And we speak to that taboo subject matter. And the message is infinite and timeless. And I will be doing it. It is going to be a series. There will be different volumes of it. I'm letting this first one marinate because the subject matter, like I said, it is timeless.
Yeah.
But I have an organization, like I said, called Distinguished Diamonds. And we're still in our grassroots portion of it.
Okay.
And we've done some fundraising. I'm also with the National Kidney Foundation, so we deal with physical illness as well. And I'm a veteran. I'm an Army veteran.
Oh, wow.
I know about PTSD, and I don't know it from a military standpoint. I know it from a civilian standpoint, and I guess I do know it from a military standpoint because of my former spouse. Yes, I dealt with that, but just all those things that can chase you down and affect your life. But my biggest message to everyone is don't be ashamed to talk about stuff. Don't let anybody shame you into not really embracing your grief and mourning the things that you go through. That's healthy. Mourn your grief. Mourn your circumstance. Just don't dwell on it. Surround yourself with people who are strong enough, who know spiritually about hope, and they know about compassion, and they know about forgiveness, and they know about anger and bitterness and all those other things, but they don't allow it to defeat them or define their livelihood. I would love for anybody who's gone through tragic circumstances to, even if you're the caregiver, we talked about the caregivers of those who are going through things. They need help too.
Yeah.
You know, they need help. People who are living with people who have PTSD, who are aggressive and traumatic, you know, or people who are dealing with people who are bipolar, or you're taking care of someone that has a terminal illness, or, you know, whatever it is, financial woes, you're homeless, whatever, you know, we need to be able to help each other and love each other.
Yeah.
Word. And we're going to be posting the links to Distinguished Diamonds and also the Leukemia Society on our page. Yo, talk to somebody. If you need help, talk to somebody. Reach out to somebody. You can be triumphant. This is Urban City Radio.
Boot up.
Boot up.
Why not?
We love you, Facebook Live. Thank you for rocking with us. YouTube, we love you. All y'all.
Shout out to all of
Periscope.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah,
We out there. We everywhere, dog.
He did.
I said Terrascope.
Yeah, we on Periscope.
I mean, sometimes they act terrible though. So we ain't got a Snapchat.
Nah,
we ain't got.
Why don't I take it
I
off?
don't even know what to do with
We
Snapchat.
do. We got a Snapchat, Jay. Jay,
We
have a Snapchat.
We have a Snapchat.
Yeah, we have a
I don't even know what to
YouTube.
do with a Snapchat.
Oh, for the YouTube.
I remember the first time Snapchat came out. I was like, "Ain't this for like 14-year-old girls?"
I don't have.
know what to do.
I don't personally have a Snapchat.
I didn't know what to do with it.
I ain't even on
Thank you
Twitter.
guys for tuning in.
Yeah, man, we appreciate it.
You can still save it.
I love you.
It's all across the board,
not
man.
that
Appreciate y'all.
Man.
Oh, the video ended.
Guys.